Oh, I think.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, it's one day
Word for word translation. Kim, weather. Swapnaha, a dream. Etat, all this. Uta, or otherwise. Devamaya, an illusory manifestation by the external energy. Kimva, or else. Madhya, my personal. Bata, indeed. Buddhimoha, illusion of intelligence. Atho, otherwise. Amushya, of such. Eva, indeed. Mama arbhakasya, of my child. Which. Kaschan, some. Outpattikaha, natural. Atma Yoga, personal mystic power. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami. Mother Yashoda began to argue within herself. Is this a dream or is it an illusory creation by the external energy? Has this been manifested by my own intelligence or is it some mystic power of my child? When Mother Yashoda saw this wonderful manifestation in the mouth of her child, she began to argue within herself about whether it was a dream. Then she considered, I'm not dreaming because my eyes are open. I'm actually seeing what is happening. I'm not sleeping, nor am I dreaming. Then maybe this is an illusion created by Devamaya. But that is also not possible. What business would the demigods have showing such things to me? I'm an insignificant woman with no connection with the demigods. Why should they take the trouble to put me into Devamaya? That also is not possible. The Mother Yashoda considered that the vision might be due to bewilderment. And second health, I'm not diseased. Why should there be bewilderment? It is not possible that my brain is deranged. Since I'm ordinarily quite fit to think, then this vision must be due to some mystic power of my son, as predicted by Bhagavatam. Thus she finally concluded that the vision was due to her son's activities and nothing else. So, it's an auspicious occasion of Janmashtami. I'm grateful to be here. Lotus feet of the Lordships, and I'll speak today on the topic broadly of what experiencing God means. Janmashtami is the time when Krishna appeared thousands of years ago, and we have an opportunity to experience Krishna. So here Yashoda Mai is experiencing Krishna. She's always experiencing Krishna because Krishna is her child, she is her mother, yes. But here, she's experiencing Krishna in a way different from the normal. She has asked Krishna to open his mouth, and then she is seeing the whole universe within Krishna's mouth. And she's now trying to use her intelligence to figure out what is happening. So generally, we as human beings, at least at some level, we need to make sense of what we are experiencing. So when we experience something extraordinary, right now we are sitting, we're all hearing a class, and suddenly someone just seems to walk in through the wall. The person not here, how did they come? Is there a door over there? Did I not notice that the person was actually leaning on the wall and just came forward? What exactly happened? So we want to make sense. At one level, the experience of Krishna is an experience that we can't make sense at one level. But we'll analyze what that means. But here she's trying to make sense of the experience of Krishna. And what happens is, she sees that, okay, could it just be a dream? In dreams, all kinds of fantastic things can happen. So, Baldev Jayabhushan, in answer to the commentary and Govinda Bhashi says that dreams are not governed by the laws that govern gross. That doesn't mean that dreams are simply fantasy. Dreams can also talk about some kind of reality, but they're not governed by the laws of gross matter. So, this is a dream, and then she pinches herself and says, I'm awake. It's not a dream. Then she considers two explanations. One is somebody intentionally trying to put me in illusion? Is somebody playing some game with me? Like there is something, April Fool's, is there something like that? Is somebody playing around, messing with me? And so, okay, but this is quite a remarkable illusion. It could, if somebody is messing up, they must have really great power. So maybe it's the Devatas who are doing this. Deva Maya, it can refer to Devatas. It can also refer to Maya Devi. Devatas fooling around this, and if there are some amusement parks, there is something like a house of illusion. So you go in and then you see doors all around you, and then you know which is the actual door. So then you go and you bang your head against what is the glass, it gives you a door. So is this an intentionally created illusion by someone? Or she says, no, as Prabhupada said, why would Devatas try to fool me around? What analysis finds first wasn't the gain of it. So this is what is the other.
Hare Krishna, I think you muted yourself by accident.
Thanks, Angelica. We're gonna call his assistant.
So she says,
Ask them to move the phone closer.
Is it that my son has some special powers? That's the explanation of it. And she thinks in this way. So then the next verse will go on and say that. So he says, okay, what is a special power? Now it's the next verse is a little ambiguous. Atho yathavanna vitarka gocharam cheto mana karma vacho viranjasa yat ashrayam yena yatha pratiyate sudirvibhavya pranatasmi tatpadam. So she is offering her obeisances to the Lord. So it's interesting that in Vrindavan there is always this ambiguity among the Rajvasis. Who is Krishna? Is Krishna really God? The Rajvasis know it and don't know it. So here, is this my son's special power? Maybe it is. See, when somebody's trying to process things and they come up with multiple options and they stop their options at a particular point. What does that mean? That's more of the option that makes more sense to me. Is it this or is it this? Now, if we're asking someone else, then we wait for the answer. But if we're thinking aloud, we'll not stop thinking aloud till we come to satisfactory answer. Okay, this is my son's specific power. But then, in the next verse, she is not offering obeisances to her son. It's the obeisance, the prayer is not in the second person. The prayer is in the third person. Therefore, I offer my obeisances to that Lord, not from that Lord. That Lord, not this Lord. So why is that? Because she thinks, yes, if my son has some special powers, that must be with the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, I'm blessed. So it's like Gargamuni, when he comes to do the name giving of Krishna, naming ceremony for Krishna, he tells and doesn't tell. He says, your son is just like Narayan. So it's just like Narayan. Who can be like Narayan? At one level, in the past, if you consider Indian tradition, it would be common to compare, say, for example, if a couple is getting married and there will be marriage ceremony. Oh, this couple just looks like Sitaram or looks like Lakshmi Narayan. So it's a praise, but it's not meant to take it literal. But on another level, there can be no one like Narayan. Only Narayan is like Narayan. So for those who understand the subtle message and says, oh, he is Narayan. But he doesn't tell that over. And then he also says, previously, he was the son of Vasudeva. Now that word, if you go to Sanskrit, Jiva Swami has a lot of, people say, intellectual fun analyzing these words. So he says, previously, now Nanda Maharaj takes it to mean in the previous life. But Vasudeva is not just now previously, just now Nanda Prabhu Vasudeva brought this child. So he keeps that ambiguity over. So when Krishna does wonderful things, the Vrajvasis don't immediately jump to the conclusion that Krishna is God. They think that, oh, who is this Krishna? Someone special. This Atma Yoga, Outpatika. He has got some special powers. And how have those powers come? They have come by the blessings of Lord Narayan. So Narayan Maharaj said, maybe I did some bhakti, Narayan was pleased. And that's why Krishna has survived despite all these demons attacking him. So what happens is, even when we experience God, at least here the Vrajvasis experience God, they actually don't experience him as God. They're experiencing God. It's Krishna showing his greatness. It is Krishna showing his divine knowledge. But they are not experiencing him as God. They say that for them it's so lovable. Krishna, this is my beloved child. So they don't. So they're experiencing God and then perceiving that experience to be God. They're two separate things. And this is a theme which runs through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's what the Bhagavatam is all about. It's like, whatever we experience in our life, how to experience God through our daily experiences. Parikshit Maharaj is cursed to die in 7 days for a minor infraction. But then what does he say? Oh, through this Takshaka, it is Vishnu who has made this arrangement. Lord Vishnu has made this arrangement to liberate me from material existence. So at one level, we are experiencing something, but bhakti is the art of experiencing Krishna through our ordinary experiences. Experiencing Krishna through our ordinary experiences. The devotees first time went to India, or maybe second time. Many of the devotees, for the devotees the first time after Prabhupada started ISKCON. So they had gone to Visakhapatnam. And they were near the sea. And the devotees used to swim in the past. The swimming was just for fun, for, you could say in a devotee language, for sense gratification. And Prabhupada said, let's go and swim. And one of the devotees asked Prabhupada, is this Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, the taste of water is Krishna. Krishna said, I am the light of the sun. If Krishna, Prabhupada says, you are talking about Krishna, Krishna says, I am sound meter. He says, you are all surrounded by Krishna. He says, the fragrance of the earth is Krishna. They are surrounded by Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. Oh, they were surrounded by Krishna, but they are not conscious of Krishna. So they realized that Prabhupada was experiencing that beach very differently from the way they were experiencing. So Krishna consciousness doesn't necessarily mean our experiences themselves change dramatically. Yes, they also change. But how we experience our experiences also changes. So the same thing happens right when Krishna appears. At one level, it is like an ordinary child is being born in very difficult situations. Very, very difficult situations that they were born in a Krishna appeared in a prison cell. So a devotee was recently telling he had a baby during the COVID lockdown. So he said that he said we had this baby during the lockdown, and Krishna was literally in a locker. He was locked down in the cellar. And that's when he appeared. So it was actually quite an advanced situation. And there also we'll see Devaki and Vasudeva. They tried to process what is going on. Initially, when Krishna appears, and Krishna manifests his magnificence, and he manifests not as an ordinary baby, he manifests as a baby with forearm, with Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, with clothes, with grown hair, and he's speaking coherently. At least initially he doesn't speak, but he starts speaking. This is Janma Karma Chame Divyam. So now, what had happened is, at that time, Devaki's and Vasudev's responses are quite remarkable. Now, Devaki started thinking, her first thought is, this is my child, it's come from my womb, and it is my duty to protect. She says, you have such, he says, she prays to Krishna, you are so effulgent. How will I be able to hide you? She says, please change yourself to an ordinary baby so that I can hide you. Now we say, can't you say that? He's God, you don't have to hide him. You don't have to protect him, he will protect you. So that is there. But at that time, the experience of God is so extraordinary that it can be quite disorienting at one level. It can be quite disorienting. So different people will respond in very different ways. Here, when Yashoda, she sees this, she's not thinking, oh, I start offering prayers. Now she's offering prayers to Krishna. The prayers to Krishna, but it's not actually offering to Krishna, she's offering to Narayan. But then, slowly within her awareness, it starts to move. Maybe this Krishna and Narayan are the same. The gopis know it, the Brajavasis and the devotees in Mathura, they know Krishna is God, but that is not in the forefront of their awareness. It is in the background. The Acharyas give the example that just like the sun, the stars in the night are very easily visible. But in the daytime, the sun is there. The stars are still there in the sky. But the stars are not easily visible. This is similarly the knowledge of Krishna's greatness, Krishna's divinity, is like the light of the stars. When we are in the darkness of material existence, that light of the stars is vital for us to find our way. So it guides us towards safety, towards a safe destination. But the sun is the stars is what? Knowledge of Krishna's greatness. And the sun is the knowledge of Krishna's sweetness. Or you could say absorption in Krishna's sweetness. So when that arises, then the stars go into the background. Don't notice the stars. And even suddenly the stars become visible. Where does this come from? Try to figure it out. So Yashoda, so Devaki is trying to figure this out. So I want to hide you. Where can I hide you? And I was thinking like this, just don't know. And then Vasudev's prayers are a little bit more sober. So they remembers. This is actually Supreme Lord. Now Devaki also remembers, but what happens is, it's like constant tension. Now, this is Krishna and this is God and he will protect me. This is my child and I have to protect him. So there's the ambivalence of emotions in the heart. And then finally, Krishna speaks. And Krishna speaks not in a small, limping voice of a baby. Krishna speaks in the deep, sonorous voice of the divine. And he speaks very crisis. He tells about their previous life, how they perform austerities. And then that is how you have me as a child. And then after that, he tells them what we should do. That you can take me to Vrindavan. And then what happens is the doors open and they all move to it. So that is the experience of God, which leads to here, Yashoda, when I'm sitting with Krishna, maybe Krishna is God. And then Krishna starts thinking, hey, this will spoil the rasa. I want to have loving relation. I want Yashoda to treat me like her child. I don't want Yashoda to treat me like God. So he covers the experience. He unmanifests the universe in his mouth. What was all that? Whatever it was, Krishna is my child, I'm going to take care of it. And then they move. So the experience of the divine is often an extraordinary experience. And processing it can happen in different ways. The first most important thing is that we need to process that this is an experience of the divine. If we don't process that, then we may experience God and He will not experience it. It's like somebody comes to Kirtan and some people are doing some music. We come there, we hear and go. But some people come for Kirtan. Okay, this is special. Let me immerse myself. And then they're thinking, that's good. But let me go on with my life. And then somebody saying, that's extraordinary. What is this? I want to know more about this. And then they understand it. So they experience something special and they pass away. Yeah. What is that saying? Unless something like this. Most people, when they stumble across the truth, they are only concerned that they have stubbed their toe. So, what happens? Sometimes it's like that. We experience Krishna, but we don't experience that this is Krishna, that this is God, this is the ultimate reality. So, the whole process of bhakti is recognizing that this experience is the experience of Krishna. And what does that mean? So, if we consider the Gopi Gita, that is considered the crest jewel of the Bhagavatam, the Ras Panchadhyaya, are the topmost, they depict the highest level of love between what is possible love between the soul and the divine. And in that love, what happens? They experience Krishna. So, when they are experiencing Krishna, how are they experiencing Krishna? Initially, it is that they are with Krishna. And for them, Krishna is their lover. Krishna is their loving. They're not really conscious that he's God. He's their lover. And Krishna has asked them to come, play his flute, and they just left everything. Sarvadharman Parityajya. Krishna Mekam Charan. They surrender to Krishna. They go to Krishna. And then what happens is, many people think that why do we, what is the experience of God about? We think it is the experience of peace. I feel very peaceful. Or I feel great pleasure. But if you see, while those are experiences on the spiritual path, when we experience transcendence. But bhakti, in one sense, the experience of God in the process of bhakti goes beyond all stereotypes. So the experience of God is not a very peaceful experience. No. As I said, Shodha is confused. What is going on? Devaki is fearful. The gopis, they are with Krishna, and suddenly Krishna leaves them and goes away. And they are devastated. What happened? We left everything for Krishna, and Krishna has abandoned us. From a material and a spiritual perspective. From a material perspective, there are young women alone in a dangerous forest at night. That's alarming. From a spiritual perspective, they left everything to come to Krishna, and Krishna abandoned them. What did you do? In the Christian tradition, there is the idea of the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is what? That when we just don't experience God at all. But everything that we think will give us experience of God leaves us empty and dry. We think, okay, the chanting, I think it's this. We chant and we feel nothing. I'll come to the temple and pray to Krishna. I'll participate in Kirtan. It all feels dry and empty. So that is considered a dark night of the soul. That the soul subsists on the experience of God. And when the soul can't experience God, that is extreme agony for the soul. So we could say, for the gopis, this was like their dark night of the soul. That they had left everything to be with Krishna, to experience loving union with Krishna. Not impersonal union, personal union with Krishna. But suddenly Krishna has left them. It was literally a dark night also. It was night and it was dark. The forest of Vrindavan was extremely dark. And Nanandaman Champu describes that, Kavikarnapur describes that the gopis frantically searched everywhere, here, there, they searched everywhere, but they just couldn't find Krishna. And finally, they went so deep into the forest that they couldn't even see their hand in front of them. It was so dark. And that was the time they decided that we will not be able to find Krishna. So they decided to come back. And they came back where? They came back to the banks of the Chaitanya. And they sat down and started glorifying Krishna. Actually, started doing the Gopi Gita, offering prayers to Krishna, calling out to Krishna. Now, if you just read the prayers, they're very sweet, they're remarkably sublime. But implicit in all those prayers, the 19 verses, each of these prayers has an unspoken, import. So if we respect someone, we love someone, we won't criticize that person. Right? Say if we invite somebody for food and they come late, we won't say you are late. We might say the food has become cold. Now what that means is that actually you didn't come on time. So the gopis, they don't directly say, Krishna, please come back. But through each one of their prayers, that is what they say. Each verse of the Gopi Gita is, Krishna, please come back. Jayati te vikam janmana braja, shrayat indira shashwadadari, daita drishyatam dikshutavakas, svaidruta sabas tvam vichimate. Says that, says Krishna, you are the source of such supreme fortune that by your appearance, this whole Vrindavan has become fortunate. And how fortunate that even the goddess of fortune thinks that her fortune is nothing, and she has come here to become fortunate. And yet, you have made us unfortunate. You have made this land fortunate. You have made Lakshmi Devi. The Acharya has a lot of fun in this verse again. She's an outsider. She's not a Vrajavasi. You have made her fortunate. We are Vrajavasi. We are insiders over here. How can you make us unfortunate? Daita drishyatam dikshutavakas. You are our Lord. We love you. Our life is dedicated to your service. How can you make us unfortunate? The unspoken message is, please come back and make us fortunate. So like that, each verse is a prayer to Krishna. Please come back. How can you left us? How can you have left us and gone away? Please come back. And the gopis' prayers lead to ultimately Krishna appearing. So this actually mirrors. At one level, the gopis' pastime is extremely exalted. At another level, the principle is remarkably relevant for all of us. The same principle is depicted in the Bhagavatam at the start of the universe. When Brahmaji is born, he appears in the primeval lotus. And he is spaced out. He's in a space all around him out there, and he doesn't know who am I, where am I, what am I. He doesn't know anything. And what does he do? He starts searching. He starts climbing down the lotus. He says, going down the lotus and searching around the lotus, reaching out, probing. It's all dark. Just like the gopis, they are in the dark. So just as the gopis have a dark night of the soul, what happens is, Brahmaji is also having a dark. He says, no, what am I to do? What am I to do? But then finally he searches as much as he can. He tries to figure out, but when he can't, he comes back and sits on top of that lotus. And then he hears the word the form of austerity. And then when he performs austerity, then by that he gets the experience of Krishna. Krishna himself appears and speaks to him. As the Chatushloki Bhagavatam is spoken. And says Krishna shakes his hands. Krishna shakes his hands. There's no other place in the Bhagavatam where the shaking of hands is described. Krishna says, good job. Now continue your good work. Now you have to create the whole universe. So the idea is that, again, there is the experience of Krishna. So for us all these experiences are We all have many experiences in our life. And especially Janmashtami is a day when we try to submerge ourselves, immerse ourselves in devotional stimuli, by which we want to have experience of Krishna more and more. See, ultimately, if we consider what is the purpose of Krishna's descent, at one level we can say Dharma Samsthapanat, Krishna says in 4.7 and 4.8, that whenever there is disorder in the world, he comes to establish order. Dharma Samsthapanat. But then we can say, okay, Krishna establishes the order. After some time again, he leads to disorder. So what is the point of it? What is the utility? Order is established, order is lost. So is Krishna reason only for establishing order? No. Krishna is in 4.8, Krishna talks about you could say the outer or circumstantial or historical reason for the appearance. That's 4.8 in the Bhagavatam. And 4.9 and 10. So 4.7 and 4.8 is the outer reason. 4.9 and 10 is the inner reason. So what is the inner reason? It says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So he says that the purpose of his appearance is to attract our heart towards him so that we can attain. So vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam pashita bahavo jnana tapasa bhuta mad bhavam agataha. Krishna says if we and focus on his pastimes, if we relish his pastimes, then we can experience him in such a way that all other experiences will become insignificant. We will no longer crave for bhakti, pareshan bhava, viraktir anyacha. Bhakti gives us experience of Krishna. The experience of Krishna leads to viraktir anyacha. I don't want any other experience. I just want to experience Krishna more and more and more. And that is how we attain Krishna. Ultimately, when Krishna says, remember me at the time of death, that, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that somebody can decide. Somebody says, okay, now I have enjoyed life and I'm going to end my life. So put a gun on your head. Hare Krishna. I remember Krishna at the time of death, I'll go back. That is not the kind of remembrance. We may utter the word Krishna, but we will not remember Krishna. When Krishna says, remember Krishna, what is the process for that? He just say, Anta kalache mamama 8.5. But 8.7 he says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmam. And therefore, you remember me throughout your life. So the idea is, overall, that we all are during the course of our life, we need to get at least one experience of Krishna that is so captivating, that is so unforgettable, that will become the prominent memory in our life. See, we all have some special moments. You know, we went to some place and we met some person, and that person was just great being with that person. So that's the memory that we have. If you go to some tour and some sacred journey of India and go to Vrindavan and get some experience. So remember those. Sometimes we store our memories into the photos so that we can have those photos. That's nice. But when Krishna says remember, he says it's not that don't hold the photo. The photo should evoke the remembrance of that event. So what Krishna is saying is that when you remember me at the time of death, that means during the course of our life, we need to get such an experience of Krishna that becomes the defining, the most relishable experience of our life. And then at the time of our death, when we experience something very disorienting, we remember Krishna. That is where my shelter is. That is where my joy is. That is where my strength is. And then when the experience that we long for the most is the experience of Krishna. When we long to experience Krishna more than we long to experience anything in this world, then Krishna has no reason to keep us in this world. So that is what we need to do. Bhakti is not just a set of rituals. Oh, come to temple and take darshan. I was talking with one of my friends in Seattle. You know, I introduced him to Bhakti. So when I was in college 25 years ago, So he said, since you introduced me to Bhakti, I have been regularly going to the ISKCON temple. It's great. How regular? It's every Janmashtami. It's good. At least once a year is remembering Krishna, go to Krishna. That's nice. That's good. But that is not going to really dramatically change his life. It's like dramatically change his life. Some stimulus toward change is there. But the idea is when we practice bhakti, we want to experience Krishna deeply through our practice of bhakti. And when we experience Krishna, then that is what our heart will long for more and more and more and more. And then that's how, when we say, then for those who hear about Krishna, the Bhagavatam says, there is no fear of death also. Madashraya katha drishta, shrunumanti kathayanti, tapanti vidastapa naitan mangadacheta. He says that the distresses of the world may come, but we will not be disturbed by those distresses. Why? Because we are experiencing Krishna, and that experience is so great, so fulfilling, so captivating, so immersive, that other experiences don't matter so much for us. And that is what we can pray to Krishna on Janmashtami. He appears in this world not just to set order at a particular time in history, to establish dharma at a particular time in history. That is true. But he appears to actually establish prema in our hearts throughout history. So whenever we hear about Krishna, and especially when we hear about him on the sacred day of his appearance, we have an opportunity to experience it. And that experience is what has the capacity to transform us. So I'll conclude with one key point, which is going to be the main point of my class. I'll try to keep it short. What does experience of Krishna mean? Generally, we may think that experience of Krishna can mean peace. Oh, I feel so peaceful. I feel so calm. I feel so serene. And yes, you may feel that way. But if that, so what happens is, God is far bigger than our conception of God. God is far bigger than our conception of God. And that's why God is greater than all the religions that may be dedicated to God. Why do religions fight sometimes? Or even within a religion, different groups fight? Because each group reduces God to their conception of God. And when somebody else's conception of God is different, say, you're doing wrong. There are some religions which say you're going to go to hell because you are not following. Your conception of God is not mine. And some extremist religions will say, not only are you going to go to hell, we will help you get there fast. So God is far greater than our experience of God, than our conception of God. And the experience of God is far greater than our expectation from that experience. Because I may think, when I experience God, I feel so peaceful. Well, we may feel peaceful, but the experience of God may be something far bigger than peace. We may think, I experience God, I feel pleasure. Yeah, we may feel pleasure when we experience Krishna. But sometimes, when we experience Krishna, it will not be a pleasurable experience. For the gopis, when Krishna has left them and gone away and they're frantically searching for Krishna, then they are calling out to Krishna. There's no pleasure. Actually, there's the ultimate heartbreak. They have left Krishna, they have everything for Krishna, and Krishna has left them. It's a heartbreak, but that is also an experience of Krishna. So that's why there is the general spiritual, the idea of general spiritual experience. I felt one with the universe. That is the common theme which people feel. I felt a great sense of oneness with everything around. That's nice. That's also at least some level of experience is there, spirituality. But the experience of Krishna is far, far bigger than that. It can be peace, it can be pleasure, it can be oneness, but it can be much, much more than that. It's just like any normal relationship. If we understand that when we are practicing bhakti, it is not just about chanting, it is not just about kirtan, it is not just about puja, it is not just about Charan. It is about a relationship with Krishna. And in that relationship, in any relationship, if it's a real relationship, there will be a wide gamut of emotions. Even when we love someone very closely, very deeply. But that doesn't mean that every interaction with that person will be filled with sweetness. Sometimes there will be differences of opinion. One of my friends is a marriage therapist, and he says that there are only two kinds of couples: those who fight and those who lie about not fighting. So, two people are together, there are going to be differences. Any real relationship, it's not just sweetness. There is the affection, there is joy, but there's a wide variety of emotions. Sometimes there are differences of opinion, sometimes and you have to deal with the differences of opinion. So a real relationship is rich with a whole gamut of emotions. And the relationship with Krishna is a supremely rich relationship. And that's why there is an entire gamut of emotions. And that's why when I really talk about the dark night of the soul, that can seem, has God abandoned me? Does God even exist? What's going on? So actually, that absence of the experience of God is also an experience of God. Because it is that which creates that desperate longing. I want to experience Krishna. This is what happens to the gopis. Krishna is with them and Krishna goes away. They experience Krishna and they no longer experience Krishna. And after that, when Krishna finally comes back, the gopis speak the Gopi Gita and their earnest prayers inspire Krishna to return. And Krishna comes back, and then the gopis are ambivalent over it. It's like, suppose we have a child, and very small, 3-4 years old, and the child has run away from him. And they're in great anxiety. And finally, we find the child getting back. There's one part of us is angry. How dare you run away like this? What do you think you're doing? But the other part of us is apprehensive. If I chastise the child too much, you will run away again. So, what do you do this time? So, the gopis are in that kind of predicament. They're angry with Krishna. They're really angry. We left everything for you. How could you have abandoned us like this? But at the same time, they're apprehensive. If we get too angry with him, Krishna will go away. So what they do is, they again use an indirect act. So what is the indirect act they use? That's why when there is love, there is the text and then the subtext. Every statement that is made in the context, like say, generally, if two people are very close to each other, they can speak a lot without speaking even a word. Just through the gestures. They say, oh, this is what it means. So, if two people have enjoyed a private joke, and then after they speak something which reminds them of the joke, so then what happens is, then you're talking with everyone else, but they look at that person, and they both of them remember the joke and they smile. So what is happening is there is always a subtext based on the relationship. So for those who know in that relationship, there is a subtext. So what the gopis do is, the gopis, when Krishna comes back, they indirectly ask Krishna, we would like to know about love and lovers. Says that some people, when somebody loves them, they love them back. They love back. And some people, when they love, when they are loved, they love back in the same quantity. Some people, the conversation is quite elaborate and it goes into a lot of details of what exactly is this. But I just give like a bare bones outline. Some people, when they love them, they love back much, much. And some people, when they love them, they don't love at all. So he says that which among these three kinds of lovers are the best? So the subtext is, you are the third kind. What kind of lover? We love you, and instead of reciprocating, you abandoned us. What kind of lover? So when a question has an obvious answer, then that means there is another question underlying that question. Just like at the start of the Bhagavad Gita, when Dhritarashtra asks, when the two armies assembled for the battle, assembled for fighting on the battlefield, what did they do? Like what kind of dumb question is that? Like everybody sat down to eat food after fasting the whole day in the Janmashtami. And what did they do? They eat food, didn't they? So, suppose somebody asks you a question. Why they ask you? Actually, there was something else going on. Maybe there was some special surprise was there. Just when Prasad was going on, some VIP guests were going to come and they would have some ecstatic treatment. So did that happen? Something unexpected over there. So the Dhritarashtra's question is, why they who won? Actually, did the fight happen? There's some unstated question. So similarly, go to the unstated question, what kind of love are you? And what does Krishna reply? Krishna replies that it is because of my love for you that I live. And what is the point of that? The point is that through this, you have demonstrated the greatest love. The culmination of love you have demonstrated. And thus you have conquered my heart. And in fact, you have won me so much that I can't repay you. So what does this mean? Krishna is saying, what is he saying over here? So generally, in any relationship, if the other person doesn't treat us properly, the other person mistreats us, why am I in this relationship? Some people, they're just looking for reasons to end a relationship. And some people, even when there are reasons to end a relationship, they may look for reasons. They should not end the relationship. They should stay home. So suppose there is every reason to end a relationship. And even then a person stays in the relationship. That indicates that it's a real love. Now, of course, if a relationship is abusive or something, that's different. But when there's every reason to end a relationship and a person stays in that relationship, that indicates real love. So what Krishna is saying is the gopis, for them, they left everything for Krishna and Krishna left them and went there. That would have been sufficient reason for them to end their relationship. But they did not. When there was every reason to reject Krishna, they still did not reject. They questioned Krishna, they were angry with Krishna, but they did not reject Krishna. And that demonstrated their love. And when they demonstrated their love, then Krishna says, you have won my heart. You have won my heart. More than anything else could ever have. And I am indebted to you for it. Similarly, for us, when we experience the dark night of the soul can be at various levels. When we experience it, when we are trying to practice bhakti and things around us start falling apart. Maybe our health goes down, maybe our relationships don't work, maybe our job goes off, maybe there's misunderstanding even among devotees. You may start thinking, what am I doing over here? Why am I even practicing bhakti? So I'm serving Krishna. I thought that Krishna will bring order in my life. But the order is going away from my life. What's going on? It could be a dark night also. But beyond that, you feel, okay, there are all these things that are going disorderly in my life, but at least I can chant and experience Krishna in peace. But sometimes we chant and don't even experience peace at that time. So not only is that, you could say, the material things in our life go wrong, but even the spiritual things in our life seem to be going wrong. And that is, among the dark nights of the soul, that is the darkest among dark nights. But what is Krishna doing? Krishna is actually through that giving us an opportunity to focus only on him. So we need to put aside our preconceptions of what bhakti means, our preconceptions of what spirituality is like, what spiritual experiences are like, and just open ourselves to the moment, open ourselves to Krishna in that moment. So Krishna may speak to us through our pain. Krishna may speak to us through our anxiety. Krishna may speak to us through our grief. Krishna may speak in many different languages. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj told Prabhupada when he was in charge of the Delhi project, the Juhu project, there's a lot of political and legal complications. And Prabhupada, he told Prabhupada, all this anxiety is disturbing my child. And Prabhupada replied, your anxiety will take you to Krishna. Your anxiety for serving Krishna will take you to Krishna. Now, this does not mean anxiety alone is the way to Krishna and we make ourselves more anxious. That's not the point. But the point is, we have to give up our stereotypes of what experience of God means. Somebody thinks that experience of God is actually very peaceful. Well, no. Experience of God in the bhakti means a relationship with Krishna. And in the relationship with Krishna, we take responsibilities. And every responsibility will bring some anxiety. So even that anxiety in the service of Krishna is an experience of Krishna. Because that is taking us toward Krishna. That is showing Krishna that we want to stay connected with him. We want to stay connected with him. So for instance, for Devaki and Vasudeva, when Krishna appeared, even before Krishna appeared, they lost 6 of their children. 7th again, six of their children, they saw dying before their own eyes. In smashed, brutal way to die. The 7th, apparently, they had a miscarriage. They didn't know that Balaram has been born. So 7 children they lost. So losing one child is devastating. 7 children. And then even after Krishna appeared, Krishna just left. And they had no idea when Krishna is going to come back. They had the hope Krishna will come back. But Krishna didn't say, I'll come back in 10 years, I'll come back in 20 years. He said to wait. So was it that the few moments Krishna came and they experienced Krishna and there was joy, and that made all the other moments worthwhile? Well, yes, that's one way of looking at it. The other way is that in the longing for Krishna, they were experiencing Krishna. So in one sense, when you say Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we are a part of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, and there's love in separation. Now, that is considered the highest form of love. Why is that considered the highest? That does not mean that a devotee doesn't want union with the Lord, doesn't want to be in the presence. The devotee naturally wants that. But when there is separation, there is an increase in the longing for the Lord. Oh, when will I experience Him? When will I experience Him? And that longing purifies us. That longing cleanses away, drives away other longings from our heart. And that's how we move closer and closer to Krishna. So the experience of Krishna is actually very different from what we may think is the experience of Krishna. So the Gopi Gita, it's not just the verses that made Krishna appear. We can also chant those verses. Today is a wonderful day to chant those verses. We can chant the Hare Krishna mantra. That's also wonderful. We can offer our personal prayers to Krishna. That's wonderful. It is not just the verses that made Krishna appear. It was a heart that was expressed through the verses. That's what got Krishna appear. And for all of us, whatever situation might be, there might be trouble, there might be distress, but if we understand that, okay, this is not what I signed for when I started practicing. Then, yeah, maybe this is not what I signed for, but we are still in Krishna's circle of love. Right? And what we are experiencing can be the experience of Krishna. Now, how exactly will it be the experience of Krishna? That is where we need devotional intelligence. That is why we need guidance from devotees. That is why we need spiritual mentors. And when we have that, okay, whatever is happening, how am I experiencing Krishna? We will figure that out. And then all our experiences, even traumatic experiences, will draw us closer and closer to Krishna. So I conclude with this point that when we are practicing bhakti, rather than imposing our expectations, like this is how bhakti should be, I should be very peaceful, I should be very joyful. No, if we can just keep them, I want to serve Krishna. How can I serve Krishna in this situation? If we keep that more, then Krishna will give us the intelligence to see whatever is happening in our life as favorable to bhakti, as we are able to experience Krishna. So separation can also increase our desire for union with Krishna. But when will that happen? So when our desire for Krishna is strong. The desire for Krishna is like a fire. And the fire is a small, tiny candle. And wind comes. What will happen? The wind will extinguish the fire. But the fire is like a giant forest fire. And wind comes. Then it will spread. So we shouldn't think, oh, I'll be separated from Krishna and that will increase my devotion. If our devotion, separation will extinguish. So we try to keep ourselves in association. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, we cannot be in association. We cannot be in the favorable circumstances. We can say that Krishna has seen that my devotion can be like a forest fire and it can grow further and further. Let it grow further and further. And that way, we will go closer to Krishna to even the difficult and distressing experiences of our life. Then Janmashtami is an opportunity for us to experience Krishna directly through Kirtan, through Katha, through Seva. And then, with the impetus, with the impressions created by this experience of Krishna, let us pray that whatever experiences life gives us, we will see Krishna through the experiences. We will seek Krishna through the experiences, and we will savor Krishna through our experiences. That is Krishna consciousness. So quickly summarize. I spoke broadly three main points. First was we discussed the experience of Krishna, of Yashoda Mai, and of Devaki, and of the gopis. How this experience was very different. It was not just stereotype of peace and calmness and good and cheerfulness of pleasure. So like a radiated experience. And then the second point I talk about is that in the dark night of the soul, it is actually, we are not experiencing God. We are not experiencing God through outer security and order in our life. We are not experiencing God through inner peace and pleasure also. But through that, actually, if we persist, then we can live in the heart of God. Through that, just like the gopis and Krishna abandoned them and they stayed faithful to God. Krishna. And what happened was they won the heart of Krishna. So the dark night of the soul is not God rejecting the soul, but God giving the soul the opportunity to show the firm intention. The last part was we need devotee association, we need direct devotional experiences, so that whenever there are adverse experiences in our life, we can process those in a way that helps us experience Krishna and come to Krishna. Thank you very much. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki Jai. Shri Krishna Janmashtami Mahamahotsav ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaura Bhaktavrinda ki Jai.
Chaitanya Charan ki Jai.
Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, can you hear us? Chaitanya Charan, Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear us? Hari Bol. Oh well. Okay, Evan is taking us to Prabhupada. Okay, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. All right. Evan G, can you hear me? Evan Acharya, can you hear us? I'm sorry, dear devotees, there's a technical difficulty. They can't hear us. If you like, you can stick around for darshan. Or maybe we can have a discussion. How about that? Do we have Krishna Daya on the call? Krishna Daya, are you here? We have Yadunath Prabhu. Okay, Yadunath Prabhu, would you like to take questions? I have a question in regards to what was said in class. Hare Krishna. Yadunath Ji, are you here?
What did you ask for?
Would you like to take a question?
Take a question on his class?
Yeah.
I was just about to sign off, but
It's okay. No pressure. No pressure. Maybe.
yeah, I mean, if there's a question, I'll maybe try to get one.
Just a quick one. He was talking how if you're experiencing anxiety for Krishna in Krishna's service, that's an experience of Krishna. That's Krishna consciousness. And my question is, what if this anxiety and overload and being stressed out is kind of everything that if that's all I'm experiencing in Krishna consciousness, is that a healthy way of approaching my bhakti, or there has to be a proportion of anxiety for Krishna and maybe some fun for Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have to have that balanced out. But I think the idea is to recognize that anxiety for Krishna is still Krishna consciousness, because you're conscious of Krishna in that anxiety. But if you just focus on the we'll call it a negative right now. If you focus on the negative aspect, then that's not going to be healthy. But it should open you up to a fuller experience of Krishna. So if you're able to experience Krishna in your anxiety, then that should remind us that we can experience Krishna in other things. And then a natural balance will begin to take over and widen the scope of our Krishna consciousness. So we can understand that everything good that happens to me, quote unquote, good that happens to me is coming from Krishna. That's Krishna consciousness. And we also understand that everything, quote unquote, bad that happens to me, that's also Krishna. And when we understand why the bad things happen, that it is for a good reason, a productive reason, then our Krishna consciousness expands, and our feelings of love for the Lord increase, because we understand, like, oh, this is for my own good. This is actually benefiting me. So in that way, a bridge is built from a quote unquote negative experience to a quote unquote positive experience, because ultimately it's all a positive experience. But we don't experience it that way while we're conditioned. So
Thank you,
I hope that's somewhat helpful. And I apologize, because you really deserve an answer from him, which will be way above and beyond whatever I just said.
No, Yadanaji Prabhu, thank you very much. It's very helpful. Anxiety for Krishna opens us up. I like that one. I like that line. That's my takeaway.
Thank you. Thank you for your save. I have to sign off now. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay. Okay. Is Bhima Prabhu on the call? Bhima Prabhu, would you like to contribute to class? It was a little choppy. We did our best.
I can say, yeah. I mean, please, for the future, the closer the microphone, the clearer the call, and especially when somebody has an accent like Chaitanya Charan, which is very endearing, but at the same time, the audio gets cut. And if people would just lean forward and push that phone or microphone literally a foot closer, it would really be helpful. I was straining my ears to hear, because everything he was saying was wonderful.
Were you in anxiety, Bhima Prabhu?
I was in anxiety, because he was talking about something that's very dear to me, which is to have experience of Krishna, and rather than just a philosophical understanding, but the actual sort of contemplative moment by moment surrender to the wonder. How wonderful is Krishna? The wonder that is Krishna at all times. Nature brings that on a lot. If one is silent and still enough and quiets one's mind and is not busy, rambling and thinking and struggling and striving, but just simply being still and being grateful. This is the most important thing, is to be grateful, to have gratitude for everything that Krishna has given us, even within this world itself. He has given us this facility. And that's what Chaitanya Charan was talking about, in that experience of Krishna, and then which is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, remembering Krishna, even if you may not be dancing up and down in a kirtan, or may not be listening to a wonderful lecture, but if one is just simply taking a walk in the woods or taking a hike or something like that, one can muse over Krishna's pastimes and muse over Krishna, the wonder of Krishna's nature. but anyways, I'm rambling on here, but I really enjoyed that lecture. I hope to listen to it on YouTube again to see if I can pick up the other 50% that got chopped off. So Hare Krishna, thank you for your service, Prabhu.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Thanks for inspiring us to be still enough to see Krishna in nature and anywhere we are.
I believe that we talk, when we say ras, when they talk about, not when we, but when the Bhagavatam talks ras, they're talking about feelings. I know we kind of dismiss feelings, especially in the Western world. It's not feelings, it's you must intellectually figure it out. You must parse it out in taxonomy. You must categorize and layer these rasas. You know, you've got the Santa ras and the Sakya ras and the Madura ras, and here's one person and here's another way. But it's not like it's a free flowing feeling, and it's spontaneous. That's Raganuga Bhakti. It's spontaneous, and that spontaneity is not necessarily such a high thing. It's actually, as Prabhupada said, simple for the simple-minded, simple-hearted. For the simple-hearted, and the gopis were the most simple of all, and yet they had the most feeling for Krishna, because they just accepted him as a person and their lover, without any qualms or any waving of a chamra, or any Sanskrit memorization or anything like that. They just simply accepted Krishna as their lover and their only lover. And I think that we should remember what Chaitanya Charan was saying, that this is an experience of Krishna. And remember, we feel things long before we think about them. So that's what my takeaway from that class is. Hare Krishna.
Nice. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. So I think they're going to do, they're doing Guru Puj right now, and then there will be Darshan. I think we should stay. If we can, let's stay until then, if possible. Yeah, would anyone else like to contribute? And then we'll go back online. Go back to the temple room. Would anyone like to reflect?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Gail. Is that Gail?
Yeah.
Gail, is that a question or because we don't have?
No, it's a comment.
Bhima is still here. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you can ask a question. Yeah, Bhima is here.
It's a comment.
Okay, comment. Okay.
Yeah. So just now, when Bhima Prabhu was, saying how frustrating it was to hear the choppy talk, you asked him if he was in anxiety. And so that really hit home for me because, oh my God, I was having exactly Bhima Prabhu's experience. And I always have that experience with this technology, if you just miss a syllable, you can miss the whole point, And so, to hear to have sound issues with lectures creates so much anxiety. But when you asked Bhima Prabhu if he was in anxiety, that instantly gave me the realization, hey, I'm experiencing Krishna and I'm having that anxiety. I never usually have that experience. I have the experience of anxiety only, not Krishna, And so I'm just, hoping that going forward, since I do so much Zoom and therefore there's so many sound issues, that in the future I will be able to experience Krishna whenever I go into that high anxiety mood,
Yeah, to hear people. Yes, Gail, to hear people laughing in the background and knowing that you missed the joke because you missed one word.
Exactly.
It's awful. It's like, what did he say that was so funny? Because whatever he says that's funny is profound. It's not just funny. It's profoundly funny. It's something you're going to remember. And yet you're like, I missed one word and I didn't get it.
I'm so glad you said that because remember there was there was a joke about Janmashtami, right?
Yeah.
And everybody laughed, right?
Yeah.
Did you all catch that?
No.
I didn't catch any of the jokes. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said
You feel like that guy at
the
the party who doesn't get the joke but laughs along with the other people. Like you're sitting there
I know.
smiling, nodding your head, going, that was great. And you have no idea.
No, my face is always deadpan. I never laugh politely. But yeah, we were having the same experience today between the missed jokes and the chop. You know, it was real high anxiety, but I'm so grateful. Thanks to you, Ananda Bihari Prabhu. I will now, just by asking Bhima that question, I will now experience my anxieties and Zoom calls as Krishna when I miss stuff. You know?
Yeah, it's Krishna. Krishna.
Yeah, who was last
Krishna's
talking?
destiny.
Who was last talking to giving an answer? What was the Prabhu's name? Who was just giving an answer?
His name is
Yadinath.
Yadinath.
Yadinath. Yes, a senior Prabhupada disciple, right?
No. He's Bhakti Charu Swami.
Okay, well, anyways, it was a lovely answer, and I think that the big part is, you're right. I mean, everything bad that happens to us is Krishna as well. Everything good is Krishna, and then everything bad is Krishna. And it gets to the point where I can't hear this lecture, and an actual thought went through my head. I deserve not to hear parts of this lecture because I've done something wrong, or that maybe I don't want to hear what he's saying. You start questioning why you're getting punished by not hearing everything that you need to hear. But anyways, at least we're having a discussion now, so
Right,
maybe
yeah,
they'll improve it.
We weren't ready for the jokes. We weren't ready. They were too advanced. Okay.
No, Bhima Prabhu, listen. How about this angle? Maybe that is Krishna trying to increase our separation like he did with the gopis by not being present. When we don't hear stuff, that anxiety can increase our longing for Krishna.
You know what it is? It's Krishna saying, I'm here, over here in this part of the woods. You need to come to me. I'm not going to come to you. So what he's saying is we need to get into the Bhakti Center temple room and circle around the speaker instead of try to use Krishna as a satellite.
Well, we do whatever is practical.
Krishna will grant that desire, I'm sure. Okay, so should I unmute the temple room, or we have a contribution? Do we have a contribution? Unmuting? Okay, unmuting.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare